but it also is just evidence of how myopic academia has become, that they're divorced from the average American is maybe the better way to put it. Like the average American does not think like a group of 17 to 21-year-olds who are very passionate about the Palestinian cause. Now that doesn't mean you're not going to meet people in the Midwest who don't have strong opinions or might not appreciate the stance of the Israeli government. But it's just we speak a little plainer. Like, that was a terrorist attack. Murdering babies is wrong, and we should be able to just agree to that. And sometimes I think in academia, the desire to get to all of the nuance, all of the well, there's this part of the story and this part of the story. Oh, and you need to understand this and this, and it, as opposed to, no, there are times when moral clarity is needed. And this was one of those moments. And since they've spent, according, to the folks that have been researching the changes on college campus, we're now 10 years in to college campuses not dealing with this intolerance streak that's in our youth. It has kind of created this, like, I think a groupthink phenomenon, an echo chamber of their own, where their students are saying this. They're like, maybe I don't fully agree, but like, okay, I get where you're coming from, and they just start to think that that's the norm, and then the rest of us are not participating in that. And then where we see it is, the college student graduates and comes into our workplace, and they start saying things, and you're like, yeah, that's just not how the world works. And I don't know that is going to drastically change the experience once they move into the working world and interact with normal people, but it's certainly not preparing that generation to be a healthy, functioning adult moving into the working world and contributing to our communities. So, like, in several ways, they're failing. The administrations of these colleges are failing the students that are coming in, and they're also failing the broader community, because they're producing adults who are not capable of functioning in a world where two things can be true. You can both be utterly devastated by what happened on October 7th to the Jewish people, and also very concerned for the people in Gaza who are starving right now. Like, that, those aren't mutually exclusive. But the mentality of the younger generation has become such that you have to pick a side, and you have to be pure in taking that side. And the default lens through which many people are viewing, especially in college campuses, is a lens of, Western power is bad. Colonialism is the lens through which we should view all of this. And therefore, it somehow is justified. What Hamas did on October 7th is justified. And I'm oversimplifying what is definitely a complex issue, but that also is what's happening with our youth. You have a 17-year-old who knows, a millimeter of history. They by definition cannot be experts. And instead of bringing them into school to say, like, be curious, learn about these complexities, learn about the different attempts to try to resolve some of the differences. Our college campuses were supposed to be the place where we're curious and we go to learn from experts and people who are have really grappled with things over decades, like way longer than you have been born. And instead, it's kind of inverted, and now they're focusing on the students' perspectives, and you hear stories that the professors are concerned if they insert a viewpoint or challenge a student's viewpoint. Like, there are stories or examples where the students stand up and harass the college professor, or the students protest a college professor and get them canceled, meaning fired, because they offer a viewpoint that historically in academia, it was supposed to be the place for us to have challenging views. It was supposed to be the place where we grapple with different perspectives. And that's not being allowed right now. And until we fix that, it's not just a problem for what's happening on college campus. It's that we're actually training an entire generation to not be able to hear other perspectives and to think that the way you operate in life is that there's some sort of binary that you're either all good or all evil. And that's I don't think that that's what the human experience proves. I think I think it's actually rather dangerous to think that you are purely good and that if anybody disagrees with you, you're wrong, because that's how we end up with people who become authoritarian in nature because they think they're purely good and everybody else that disagrees with them is wrong, right? Like you actually need to embrace the idea that we don't have all the answers, that we're not perfect in how we think through things, but you need that curiosity to grow. And you need that humility to grow. And I don't know that we're helping our students and the coming generations by allowing them to stay in this space that they've adopted. Is that all administrators' fault? No. Like there are multiple reasons behind why we have this generation that is adopting increasingly intolerant and illiberal value systems. But it is all of our concern that this is not producing healthy adults, and we need to figure out what we do to better produce, healthy, productive members of society that are actually interested in, the continuing the American experiment, which by definition includes people with lots of different viewpoints that don't agree with you.
True, that's true. It's also a matter of more need for education. In fact, there are only 96 programs on anti-Semitism nationwide in the United States. So there is a need for more. Uh, in 3 minutes, because after that I'd also like to talk about your book. In, yeah, in 3 minutes, what should the administrations do more to foster the Jewish life on campus?
Yes, I think it's really important that there's a strong stance of protecting Jewish students, and both being very explicit in guidance to students of this is what is acceptable behavior and this is what is not. This is expressing a viewpoint, and this is being hostile, threatening, and intimidating. And I think that not only do you need to set clear standards, they need to be enforced. There is evidence that a lot of the problems we're experiencing today on campus are directly tied to incidents of riots and protests that got out of hand that where students were not held accountable. And it created a permission structure for that behavior to continue. So you do need to be holding students accountable when they violate those codes or those rules. And over time, I don't think it's a silver bullet, but over time, I hopefully you end up with a healthier campus. But no doubt, reassuring the Jewish students that they're wanted, that they are a prized member of their community, keeping open dialogues with the Jewish community on campus, so that students feel like they can not only express their concerns, but if there's legitimate security threats, that they can take action to make sure that they're protected. That's super important and should be a top priority.
I mean, we still have time for the book. I promise we will talk about it. But is there a role for the law enforcement in helping universities in this regard?
Absolutely. Most schools have their own law enforcement or campus security apparatus. But hopefully they're also working with their local law enforcement and maybe even the FBI, depending on the nature of the threats,